Hello, how are you? Welcome back. It's good to see you again. Take a seat really quick. I'm sorry, I'm just finishing up this thought. I'm putting some final edits on. It's a short poem that I've written in honor of someone who's very quickly becoming my favorite poet. And I'm not going to tell you who, because I think it'd be fun to show you a copy of their poetry that I recently got and have been perusing quite often. But if I knew this person's name beyond 6 months ago, I did not know that they were a poet, and they were a prolific poet at that in their day and age. But they're very quickly becoming my favorite poet. And this poem is in honor of them, and I'm just putting some final touches to it. And I think that's... Sorry, it's hard to talk and write at the same time. But you've caught me. You have caught me in a vulnerable moment. Okay, that's enough for now. So anyway, perhaps one of the next visits I'll share with you who that is, a little bit of their history, and then some of their poetry, because I've very much enjoyed it. And then perhaps I'll share the poem that I have just written and finishing up editing. Okay, well, it's been a while. I'm so sorry it's been so long. I think it's been like a month at this point, but this summer has been really a very nice summer, and we went into it having no plans. We didn't really have any vacations lined up. If we have something, it's going to be a trip probably in early fall, really, really late summer at the earliest, I think, just because it's easier to be outside when it's just a little bit cooler. It's not so hot. And then I've been habitually helping trying to help my father with. He's trying to install a cattle fence on some acreage he has. So I've been in and out of town and really not had a chance to kind of sit down with you and visit. But I have had something that I have been contemplating for the last, honestly, several weeks. And it's the question of, and don't roll your eyes yet, but it's the question of modesty. Now, we often associate the question of modesty, and I'm sure you instantly just thought of it, is this conversation surrounding feminine modesty or feminine immodesty, and that women should cover up more and dress more appropriately and more traditionally, perhaps. That has been actually a smaller aspect of what I've thought of. It did start with that, but my train of thought was really this, that, okay, women principally dress immodestly by not covering up enough. Like, that's obvious. And okay, well, why do they do that? And what's the principle underlying women dressing that way or being tempted to dress that way? And then is there an analog for the masculine side? And I just think pretty much all vices affect men and women the same. They often will manifest themselves differently. Well, anyway, so let's just talk about the feminine immodesty question for a second, because this will set up the underlying principle and then set up what I've actually been thinking about most often. And I think the principle for, again, female immodesty could really be defined as most often the temptation or the inordinate attention to or emphasis on vanity in your dress or sensuality in your dress, which is really just provocation, honestly, just base provocation. Which is obvious for anyone who's ever seen an inappropriately dressed female. And the underlying principle is, I think, is that your clothes are an expression of you. They're either an expression of your personality, they're an expression of who you are, what you do, or what you want to be or do. And so, again, the basic underline there is that, well, your clothes are for you. And first I was given, my initial thought was, well, that's not true. I was given this advice. I didn't ask for this advice, but I was given it all the same several years ago, and it has obviously informed this area of my life, how I dress, particularly in public and for different events. And the advice was, stop dressing for yourself, which is a negative. It's a, don't do this thing. Well, okay, what's the positive, what's the flip side if we framed that negative statement positively? Well, the positive statement would be, your clothes are for other people. Like, okay, well then that drastically changes how you think of, one, yourself, how you array yourself, and then also it drastically changes how you view other people. I've mentioned this in the past, but if I'm ever asked in public or at the workplace or at church or whatever, why do you dress that way? Like, everyone else is wearing like polo shirts and like nice chinos and stuff, but like, why are you dressed that way? Why are you wearing a tie when it's 90 degrees? And I say the same thing every time. I didn't start saying this, but certainly within the last couple of years, I say this every time. I just look at the person and say, you're worth my best. And sometimes my best is not super nice. Sometimes my pants are a little, I have small children. Sometimes there's a stain on a pant leg that I missed, or maybe I didn't iron this, that pant cuff quite right, and so it looks a little, wonky. But as much as possible, the way I dress is informed by this principle that everyone who has to look at me should see me generally at my best in an appropriate context. If I had a tuxedo, that doesn't mean I would always wear, black or white tie. That's not what I mean. There is a principle of appropriateness. It would be inappropriate for me to go to the workplace dressed in black or white tie, because that's not what black and white tie are for. How did I get there? Okay, so that's the underlying principle of feminine immodesty, that my clothes are for me. And I think the truth is that your clothes are for other people. Well, okay, so now we get into the masculine manifestations of immodesty. How's that for an alliteration? And I think the underlying principle would be the same. Men dress immodestly because they are consciously or otherwise ceding this point that your clothes are for you. Now, I don't think that men dress immodestly in the same way, i.e., they don't dress immodestly generally by an inordinate attention to vanity or sensuousness. This is obvious because if you ever see a scantily clad woman in public or a scantily clad man in public, the effects are opposites. One is excites passion in the female, or on the masculine side of things, it would probably often excite revulsion. So there are these opposite effects, and again, virtually no one is complaining about scantily clad men. Women don't like it anyway. So my thought was like, okay, well, men have just as much of a capacity to dress immodestly as women do, but they don't do it in the same way. So what is the way that men dress immodestly? It would strike me as odd that the only people generally who struggle with dressing modestly are women. And I thought of this and it just popped into my head, and I think the way in which men dress immodestly is by an inordinate attention or emphasis on comfort. And you see this principally in, just the way your average man will dress to the grocery store, something as mundane as the grocery store. He's often dressed in really what are either exercise gym wear or pajamas, quite frankly. Sweatpants, a t-shirt, if it's cold, a sweatshirt, slippers or slipper-like shoes, tennis shoes, your modern running shoe, your athletic shoe. The entire thing is they're usually gaudy, flamboyant colors, and they're comfortable above everything else. That's the emphasis, that they're brightly colored and they're comfortable for the wearer. That's what they're for. And so, okay, well, is someone wearing gym wear to the store wrong? No, not necessarily. But there is this, we go back to our informing principle, which is the way you dress says what you think about everyone else who has to see you. And what that says, frankly, you can accuse me of this even in the present day. Sometimes I dress in a t-shirt and athletic shorts and my gym shoes. If I'm going to the store, I'm coming home from the gym and I go to the store that way. I get it. I am not faultless in this. I do not consistently wear a shirt with a collar and a tie and a jacket everywhere I go. Certainly not at home when I'm, at home playing with the boys. But what that says is you believe that your clothes are for you and that it doesn't matter if I have to see you looking the way you do just as you got out of bed. Because that's essentially what it is. Perhaps you got up and you showered. Like, okay, well, I can't, unless you usually walk around with a thick layer of dirt on your skin, I'm not going to know the difference between you showered within 24 hours and you showered within 1 hour. Usually the person's going to be generally clean. So I thought that was an interesting distinction that, again, women tend to dress immodestly by an inordinate attention to or emphasis on outward appearance, again, vanity or sensuousness. And then men struggle with immodesty in just as prolific a way, just in a different way. They emphasize comfort and them being comfortable. The clothes I'm wearing is for me. And it matters if I'm comfortable. It doesn't matter if I look kind of like a slob to anyone else who has to see me. So I say that I picked on people who wear shorts and sweatpants and t-shirts in public, men particularly. And again, I've done it before too. I would perhaps just challenge you that you should dress nicer because, again, our principle is 1, your clothes are not for you. The way you dress tells everyone around you exactly what you think of them. And usually it's, I didn't think of you at all. Okay, well, what's the big deal? They're strangers. But they're not. Traditionally speaking, we viewed the people who lived within, your community, again, the people who are at your local grocery store with you, those are your neighbors. And so you should treat them like your neighbors. And your neighbors are due a certain debt of honor and respect and propriety from you because you live together. And you should expect the same from them. So I think that's just interesting. That's, again, the informing principle of why I dress the way I do, or why I try to dress nicer, again, in more traditional dress. And it doesn't have to be uncomfortable either. The biggest thing, particularly for men, is you just have to know your measurements. And you can do it yourself, or you can go down to your local men's warehouse and their master tailor there can give you your measurements. I literally went down to a men's warehouse. Men's warehouse is not the paragon of tailoring either. But I literally went down there. I did not buy a single thing. I just said, hey, can your master tailor, whoever you have, can they take my measurements so I know what they are? So when I'm shopping or whatever, I know the size shirt I could get, or what my jacket size is. I know all of those things because I asked. And they don't have to be uncomfortable. I do think that there is a virtue in, there is a slight virtue. We shouldn't make an idol out of this, but there is a slight virtue in saying you're worth, everyone who has to see me, you're worth a little discomfort on my part. It's okay if you look at me and say, hey, that guy looks kind of nice. Or perhaps it's even something as simple as you look at me and you don't think, wow, that guy kind of looks like a slob. So anyway, I've been thinking that. I thought that would be beneficial, particularly to men. It would be beneficial to women because it would if you have men in your life, which you generally do, you can inform them of said principle that, again, your clothes are not for you and you should act like it. And other people, I think it was C.S. Lewis who said, next to the Blessed Sacrament, the next holiest thing that you will encounter in life is the person next to you, is your neighbor. And if we really thought that, like, okay, well, I dress nice when I go to church, when I go and worship. If the next holiest thing is my neighbor, the person who I have to see, who bears the image of God, that's it. Okay, well, then that automatically means, well, if I dress nice for this, I'm going to dress a little bit nicer for this too. So anyway, I'm not attacking anyone. And again, I'm not faultless in this area. I am trying to be better at and more consistent in dressing nicely as well. But I thought that was interesting. It was an interesting thought. I don't know if that might be the only original thought I've ever had. It's unlikely, but I just can't think of where else I would have heard that. So anyway, in the spirit of getting back to our meetings, I thought it would be fun to share this I am very excited about with some of my birthday money. I've told you before, but like 2 years ago, I accidentally gave away, I don't regret it, but I accidentally gave away my copy of Coleridge's poetical works. I had a really nicely bound copy of Coleridge's poetical works, and I did not realize that it was my only copy, because often I'll have, one or two different editions or one or two copies of the same work, and I did not realize I gave away my only Coleridge. And so I've been Coleridge-less for the last couple of years, and I finally found a nice copy that I really liked, which is, who is this by? This is Frederick Warne and Co. of London, and it's just a really nice copy of the poetical works of S.T. Coleridge. Nicely bound. The binding's pretty solid on this too. The edges were at some point gilt. You can see that, but they're pretty faded. It's just a nice old copy, but nice and sturdy. It looks like it sat on someone's bookshelf, very lovingly cared for. But I thought I would read you one of his poems, because he is certainly one of, top 5, easy. Top 5 favorite poets. And this is, I'm sitting here at home, people are napping or out in the garden, and it's just nice and quiet. It's a lovely day. And this poem is called Domestic Peace, which I am enjoying myself right now. So I thought I would share this with you. So this is Domestic Peace by Samuel Taylor Coleridge. Tell me, on what holy ground may domestic peace be found? Halcyon daughter of the skies, far on fearful wings she flies, from the pomp of sceptred state, from the rebels' noisy hate. In a cottaged vale she dwells, listening to the Sabbath bells. Still around her steps are seen spotless honors, meeker mien. Love, the sire of pleasing fears, sorrow smiling through her tears, and conscious of the past employ, memory, bosom spring of joy. That's a good one. Coleridge is another one of those poets that you can just crack it open anywhere and find something that you really enjoy. So it's so good to see you again. It was nice to have our visit again, and I hope some of that was interesting. If anything of it you disagree with, please, I would like to hear your opinion. No one has to have their head bit off, but I'd be interesting to have some interlocution between the two of us. So anyway, all that being said, good to see you again, and we'll see you hopefully here shortly. Bye.